Hey guys, this is Hot Noob here, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than normal. Lately I've been tutoring a couple people and whatever, and I've been wondering why they don't understand basic algebra, yet they're still doing the math and whatever, right? And my conclusion is that because the teachers are teaching it wrong. Totally wrong. So, if you don't understand algebra, right, if you have to use a pencil and you can't really use a pen, right, if you have to use a pen to do algebra, then you probably don't know it that well. Right, so if you have to use a pencil and you don't know it that well. So yeah, pretty much, if you want to learn algebra, this is the video for you. I'll teach you how to do, all algebra or whatever you need to know in pretty much like 15 minutes. So a little background information on it. What is algebra? Well, you've been doing it pretty much since grade 1, right? I'm just going to write down a simple question. 1 plus 1 equals what? Right? That is algebra. Believe it or not. Right? That's actually the exact same thing as 1 plus 1 equals x, right? Oh, so how much is x? X is 2. Simple as that, right? Now, so pretty much algebra is a way of expressing math, right? It's the mathematical language, right? In theory, you could probably talk in algebra, but who really would want to try? So anyway, start with something simple. The simple rule is what you do to one side, you do to the other. Now, that's not exactly a shortcut per se. So I want everyone here to forget all of the shortcuts they know. All of the shortcuts that teachers have been teaching you, right? It's horrible to start with shortcuts, right? If you do algebra and you actually know it, you'll figure out these shortcuts on your own, right? Cross multiplication, fuck. When I was taught cross multiplication, I did not get it. Why is that? Because I was like, why the hell would you do that, right? They teach cross multiplication before they actually teach algebra, so it's like, WTF. So, first of all, I'm just going to say 1 plus 1 equals 2, right? So, this statement would be true, right? Your answer is correct, right? So, let's say you want to, add 1 to one side, right? You do 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 2. Now, is that actually right? No. So, how would you make this statement still be true, right? You'd have 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 2 plus 1, right? And that is still the same thing, right? Now, writing all of those 1 plus whatever is, tedious, boring, and totally not required. So, add them all up. 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3, right? Equals 2 plus 1, which is 3. Right? When you're doing algebra, you sort of want to treat each side differently, as if it's in a bracket of some sort, right? So, just move the page up this time, instead of wasting an entire page. So, let's do a simple question here. I guess most people are most familiar with x, right? It doesn't actually have to be x, and that's where the programming aspect starts to come in. So let's say 1 plus x equals, give a number, any number, let's say 6, right? What is x? Well, in your head, you already know it's 5 because it's utterly simple, right? But let's say you didn't know that x was equaling to 5, right? And you're doing this in your head anyway, right? When you get these really simple questions in grade 2 or so that are pretty much the same thing as this, right? So what you want to do is you want to get x on one side so you can actually get an answer, right? So what you do is you want to get rid of this 1. Now, how would you get rid of it, right? You'd subtract 1, right? How would you make 1 equals 0, right? So 1 minus 1 equals 0. Ta-da, right? So you subtract 1 from the side, right? And what that does is it gets rid of that. But what you do to the other side, you have to do to the other side, because now this statement is no longer correct, right? So let's say you didn't do that. How would you check? Well, take your original equation, 1 plus, and you say here that x equals 6, 6 equals 6, right? That doesn't make sense. So what you do one side, you do to the other. So subtract 1, and you end up with x equals 5. And to check it, 1 plus x, which is our original equation, equals 6. So substitute the 5 with the x, and substitute just means, you know, you're putting it in or whatever, right? So 1 plus 5 equals 6, right? Add them up, 6 equals 6. Ta-da! That's algebra right there. It's so simple. Now, you might get confused when you get negative signs and whatever, right? So, let's do x minus 2 equals 6. Wow. Okay, I already know what the answer is. I won't spoil it for you. Try to do this. You can pause the video, whatever. You don't actually have to do this. You can come back to it later. So, what is the opposite? Like, how do you turn 2 into 0, right? Or negative 2 into 0, right? When you take 2, how do you turn it to 0? You subtract 2. That equals 0. So if you have negative 2, what do you do to it? You want to add to it, right? So you add 2, that equals 0. And damn, my light's acting up. I hope no one gets seizures. I hope it's not showing up in the video. One of my lights is nearly burnt out, so it's like flashing. Anyway, so to isolate x here, to put it on all on its own, what you want to do is you want to move it to this side, and how do you do that? You add 2, right? So plus 2, right? Or you can 2 plus whatever. You can put it on the other side if you want, and plus 2, right? So what happens is 2 plus negative 2 equals 0, right? You just want to ignore all this other junk, right? You can ignore the x for now in this, right? I hope you can see that, and I'm not fingering you. So, right? Just cross it out, because you know it's equal to 0, right? It's pretty much the same thing as saying x plus 0. Do you really want to have to write down that 0 every time? Anyway, equals 8. 6 plus 2 is equal to 8. So x equals 8. So then let's go back to our original equation to double check. X minus 2 equals 6. And we want to substitute 8 in, so 8 minus 2 equals 6. Is that true? 8 minus 2 is 6, so you get 6 equals 6. And that is so weird. Last answer was also 6. I know, I must be the devil. Whatever. So, yeah, I hope you get the idea, right? I'm going to do something... let's do some other one. Really quickly, I'll just whiz right through it. Let's say, choose a different variable. Let's say a, right? A. Let's put a bunch of random junk. Plus 2 minus 3 plus plus 4 equals 0. Uh-oh, there's a 0 on the other side. Well, what do? Well... this is so hard. First of all, before we want to start, let's get rid of all of this useless crap here, right? This is 2 minus 3 plus 4. I don't know if you can read my writing because I'm a lefty. Actually, I'm a bit ambidextrous, but whatever. 2 minus 3 is what? Negative 3? If you want, you can rearrange it and do 2 plus 4, right? 2 plus 4 is 6 minus 3, right? Plus 4, 2 plus 4 is 6 minus 3. And you're ending up with what? 3, right? Equals 0, right? So, you have two options here now. You can either move the a to that side or move the 3. So, how do you get this 3 on the other side, right? Because you want a all alone on its own, right? Because lonely people are funny. I don't know. Whatever reason, right? So, you just subtract 3. And you end up with a equals 3, right? Because 3 minus 3 is 0, right? And 0 minus 3 is negative 3, right? Ta-da! Negative 3 is just like a 3 with a negative sign, whatever, right? So, just a plus, we can skip that, which goes 3 equals 0, so, you know, you can turn them around, so substitute it in, 3 plus, or, well, it's negative, so what you can just subtract, equals 0, right? 0 equals 0. Now I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to speed this up a bit. Let's do multiplication. This is really simple. 1 plus 2x equals, I don't know, 5, right? Move this to there, subtract 1, yada yada, you get 2x equals 4. And how do you get rid of this multiplication? Well, how do you make this equal 1, right? When you multiply 1 by anything, right? 1 times 3, it equals what? 3, right? What you multiplied it. So 1 times x, this would be x here, right? You can put a little multiplication sign in it if you want, is equal to x, right? So 2 times x equals 2x. Whoops. Right? So how do you turn this 2x here into x? Well, you want to make this number here a 1. So what divides 2 to make 1, right? It's pretty easy. 2, right? Divide 2 by 2. So here, we're just going to divide it by 2 and divide the other side by 2, and you're ending up with x equals 2, right? And I'm sorry I'm going to rush this, but you can pause the video later. Anyway, that's division for you. The same rule applies for anything, and I should probably do another quick example. I'm running out of time. Let's make it a bit more tricky. Let's do the opposite. This is where some people might get confused. So let's say we have 2 plus 3x divided by, I don't know, choose a number. Say 2 equals 6, right? So how do you get rid of the 2? Well, same thing as division, right? What's the opposite of division, right? How do you make something that's divided by 2, like in this example, you can ignore this. It's pretty much the same thing, 1/2. How do you make that equal 1, right? Well, of course, you multiply it by 2, right? So if you have 2 halves, you get 1, right? So 1/2 times 2 is equal to 2, right? And sorry, 1. And notice how the denominator disappears. So to get rid of this 2, all you have to do is multiply it by 2, and what you do to one side, you do to the other. So times 2 and times 2 on this side or whatever, that crosses out, and you ended up with 2 plus 3x equals 12, right? Get the 2 on the other side, so 3x, right, minus 2 from that side or whatever equals 10. Oh, well, I don't have a calculator here, so how do you get this over there? Divide by what? Right? 3 divided by 3 is 1, so equals 10 divided by 3. And I'm really rushing this, so whatever, right? Yeah, we can do radicals really quickly. We got 2 minutes, can do radicals. And 3, 2, 3, sorry. 6, 3 equals whatever. Radicals are pretty much the same way as algebra, right? They don't teach it to you from an algebra point of view, but this is still algebra, right? I don't have time to go for the algebra approach, so I'm just going to show you guys the answer. A factor, what makes 6, right? 2 times 3 is equal to 6, and there's multiplication in here, so times 3, right? 3 times 3 is 9, square rooted equals 3, so you get 3 times yada yada. So pretty much how this algebra works is 6 times 3 equals, whoops, that's a 2 there. 3 times the square root of 2. Ta-da. Okay, I'm like totally out of time now, 30 seconds and whatever. That's just your basics. I haven't gone into 2 variables and whatever. That's also pretty simple, but whatever. Anyway, this is Hot Noob. Come check out my blog if you have any questions, whatever. If you like the whole math tutorial thing and whatever, you know, post up a comment and I'll do another one of these. And yeah, this is very programming related. You do algebra, like, whatever. Bye.